Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to be giving you advice for how to create more clarity in your emails in order to reach your audience more effectively. In this little cartoon, the guy says, "Alice, I just sent you an email." And he says, "Here's a copy of my message, but I'll just tell you what it says. It says I sent you a voicemail telling you to look for a fax that says I want to talk to you." She looks pretty frustrated. So how can you make emails work for you? How can you make them useful? First of all, using correct titles for address. This is something that can really stand out, can really bug somebody, right? If you spell their name wrong, or if it's a first or last name, or if you call them Miss instead of Doctor, for example, Professor. These are all titles, people earn them, and it shows respect to use them correctly. Show you've done your research. Before you get started, show that you're respecting your audience or the person that you're sending your email to, that you're respecting their time by finding out the answers to questions that you can find out to yourself before you write the email. Because this is something that you can do on your own. You don't need to shove the responsibility for gathering that information off onto another person. That shows a lack of respect. It also shows a lack of respect for time. There's something you can find out to make your communication more relevant, to make it more up-to-date. Why waste everybody's time sending something off without having done your research first? Make sure that your introductions describe some sort of context. Just because it's an email doesn't mean that you don't need an introduction with context. If you're presenting yourself, particularly if you're presenting yourself to someone via email for the first time, like you would want to include things like your skills, your team or your group's purpose in writing the email, and then how you're going to achieve a goal that your stakeholder, perhaps if you're writing the email to him or her, has identified. So what relationship does your audience have to the information that you are delivering to them? You want to be sure to organize your emails. Make sure that you use some sort of logical organization. This might come in the form of paragraphs that are sectioned off by topic. You might include bulleted lists or questions or points, and these organizational elements are going to make it your email more professional looking, and it's also going to be much easier for your audience to process the information, and much more likely that they're actually going to get the message across instead of just clicking delete. Using a professional tone is great in an email. That's ideal, but basic grammar errors and sentence level errors are huge, right? So do your best to use professional words, professional language, and tone, but having an error-free document with correct punctuation that allows for easy understanding is going to really convey a professionalism. Whereas having errors in the document will show that you didn't care enough to check again. And one note about exclamation points. You might be really enthusiastic about this email and this project that you're getting started, and you want to show how important it is to you. That's great, but using too many exclamation points is actually unprofessional. Try to find specific and precise terms that you can put your enthusiasm into rather than just trying to use exclamation points to symbolize or to convey how excited you are. Beware of confusing sentences. This can happen when you're revising emails. You might think something looks good, want to add in a phrase or a word, accidentally add it in the wrong place, and then it gets confusing because there is a sentence there that is just sort of chopped and put together. And so be sure you're aware of that. And then you might just have a thought process that went really long, and you sat there and you thought, oh, I want to add this to the sentence, I want to make sure and say this and this and this, but then you don't go back through and read it again. So that can end up being a really confusing sentence that doesn't actually say much at all. So when in doubt, you want to break your thoughts down, create several sentences out of those thoughts to make it clear what you're trying to convey in each one. Okay. A note on professionalism and forms of address. So first names. If your manager, stakeholder uses a first name after the first or second communication, it's pretty safe to assume that you can use his or her first name after that. But when you are communicating right off the bat, it's a good rule of thumb not to use first names. It shows respect to use correct titles. And then after that, follow cues on formalities. You can match what he or she has done in terms of the communications that you have received. But be sure to err on the side of professionalism when you're not sure. So here's one more little cartoon that helps to convey this point. And the guy on the left is saying, dude, why haven't you answered my email? And he says, Dilbert says, your message was so poorly written that I didn't understand it, and I didn't dare to start a dialogue. I didn't want to touch that. I don't want to go there. And the guy says, maybe I should have a talk with your boss. You didn't answer my email? And Dilbert says, yeah, sure, maybe you should email him, because it's probably not going to be too clear. Okay, I hope this information is helpful for you. Good luck in accomplishing all your goals when you're writing emails.